What was the best decision you have made in your life? What do you think was the best decision you made in your life? Was it hard to make? Have fun watching. Story 1. Well, one decision turned into two decisions that ultimately changed my life for the better. One was when I decided I'd not listen to my mother regarding then-current health issues and saw a doctor for my lethargy, persistent head cold. It turned out I had leukemia, and my blood counts had tanked. It was so bad my doctors were amazed I was still upright and walking with my hemoglobin so low and my platelets were so low I may have bled out if I cut myself shaving. 1 year later, my dad suggested making two lists, one for my short-term goals and the other for my long-term goals. One of them was learning how to cook. I enrolled in culinary arts at a local community college that fall. Medicine saved my body, but cooking really is what brought me back to life. I've been seriously considering a proper culinary school in recent months. Story 2. Coming out of the closet. Transitioning saved my life. I don't know how else to describe it other than I can finally just take a full breath. It's like I was physically drowning in misery before. I was just so sad that I genuinely felt short of breath at all times. Just this overwhelming grief you carry with you always, that feels physically heavy in your chest like a sandbag. It's gone now. I can breathe. Asking my doctor about medication assisted treatment for my alcohol use disorder. Naltrexone also saved my life, after spending 9 years stuck in a bottle. Absolute miracle from day one. I wish the general state of the world was different because what a shit show LOL, but given those two things, I sincerely don't think I could be any happier under the current circumstances. I'm just so happy to be here. I'm still here. Story 3. Bought my home. With cash. The cost of rent or a mortgage cripples you financially. And if you let it, then you'll be crippled for life. I think for most people, pride gets in the way of making this one good decision. Accept your position in the world and buy accordingly. If you're not rich, then you can't buy anything all that snazzy. So be it. I've had a chronic medical condition for 53 years, and it's kept me in a state of poverty. After spending most of those years giving half of my monthly earnings, at least to landlords and banks, I bought a trashed-out old single wide on 2 acres out in the sticks. Cash money, $45K. I immediately felt a tremendous load lifted from my shoulders. Then I started fixing it up. Inside first, repaired everything. New appliances, paint everywhere. Good furniture, the ability to keep all of my income, made all of that possible. Painted the outside, and now I have no shame at all about where I live. None, and I've never been happier. Not even close. For the first time, I'm able to save money every month, and so I have money for medical or vehicular emergencies. I drive better cars. I buy better food. Pride is a foolish thing. Get a roof over your head, your own roof, and as soon as possible. Even if it's an ugly one, your life will get better. Story 4. Adopting my dog. It has saved my life at a time when I was in an extremely low and lonely place. Since getting her, I have been able to find some joy every day. We go on long walks every day, and she has greatly contributed to me establishing a better work-life balance. I also no longer feel invisible to the world. I talk to so many people every time I take her out, and it has helped me step outside of my comfort zone. Story 5. I took a couple years off between high school and college. I was not ready for college emotionally or academically. I worked some weird but well-paying jobs, made a bunch of money, learned Spanish for real, and then went back to college right when the jobs started disappearing during the recession. I went from a CB average student in high school to a straight A student in high school. That led to full tuition scholarships for law school. I've made a lot of mistakes in life and have many regrets, but I can trace many good things from that decision to wait a few years before starting college. Story 6. Not doing myself in when I was a seriously depressed teenager. I thought about it all the time. I got away from my verbally abusive mother by marrying a verbally abusive man. My brain went, gee, he's mean, demeans me and doesn't respect me, feels like home. But when we divorced, I was suddenly free. I started a business. I met my second husband, and he was wonderful. I've had a very happy life, and I would have missed it if I had followed through on any of the very dark plans I had as a teenager. Story 7. When I was about 12, I was watching a TV program or infomercial on the photo-reading whole mind system. I begged my mom to get me the tapes. They were over $200. Goddamn, super expensive. But I practiced them and studied what the techniques were. To this day, I'm much faster at understanding information, learning systems, and I'm very intuitive. I fully attribute it to the system. Thanks, Mom. Story 8. Every decision so far, even the bad ones, I would not be where I am today had I not made them exactly as I did. Also, a seasoned member of my occupation once told me nearly 20 years ago to dress for the job you want, not the job you have. From nearly that point on, I started wearing button-down shirts to work while everyone else was wearing polo and t-shirts. I ended up being one of the youngest in the top positions at my last job, and again, almost at the top position at my new job, a decade later, and well respected by most. Story 9. Was speeding on the freeway on a weekend trip home from college, received a ticket. Meanwhile, someone else in the state made an illegal right-hand turn and received a ticket. I had the choice of paying the ticket or going to traffic school. I chose school and met the person who made the illegal right-hand turn there. That was 36 years ago, and we've been happily married since our law-breaking days. Story 10. I, a male, decided to chase a cat when I was 13, recently getting over the death of a close friend due to cancer. I sought comfort in pets, specifically cats, and so the cat I had seen around my home at that time, I really wanted. I named him King, and he didn't look like he was owned, so I wanted to catnap him and own him as a pet. Well, as I chased him, he ran into the woods and I followed. After like 10 minutes, I heard the sound of traffic, and when I emerged from the forest, I saw a little training camp for war. Females and males my age, looked to be 12. 16 were dressed up in camo suits being yelled at an older man. A boy, age 15, approached me and asked me if I came to join, while proceeding to pick up King. Turns out, King was owned by that Marine Corps camp, and that boy was my future husband. A couple years ago, we went back to that Marine Corps camp and saw a very old King there. Turns out he had kittens with another cat, and the Marine camp was keeping them. We asked if we could take King. They said no, which was understandable, but they gifted us one of the cats, around a year old. We named him Prince, as he was almost identical to King. I will always love King, and I will never regret chasing him through the woods. Although I lost a friend, I gained a lover and a forever pet. Life couldn't be better. Story 11. My math teacher was the worst. Any excuse she found to give you a detention, she would give it to you. So the best decision I did was ask a group of girls to find a way to get her in trouble. So March Madness comes around, our teachers get assigned a team. She picks her favorite team instead of her assigned team. So the girls told the principal and made her rip the door design for March Madness down, so she starts having a mental breakdown but starts yelling and cursing at the kids. Next day, we got a new teacher. Love the new teacher. So much better. Story 12. Finishing high school. There was a period in my life whilst during high school, had lots of troubles at home and putting up with harassment from people at school I thought were my friends. Both put a toll on me physically and mentally. I was missing so much school in certain years that my relatives thought I wouldn't pass and get anywhere. One day I just decided to bite the bullet and just conquer it, no matter what it throws at me. Eventually, I walked along the stage at my graduation celebration and collected my high school certificate, and now currently finishing a Certificate 3 in business and looking to go back to studying 8. My advice to everyone, stay in school. Story 13. I was a full-time trauma nurse. I absolutely loved my job. I loved being a part of a team that would literally save lives. My son, who was barely 16, developed a mental illness and tried to take his own life. I came home from a shift of dealing with multiple traumas to find my own child unresponsive at home. It was the most terrifying moment of my life. It led to a spiral that continued for the next 10 months, 7 hospitalizations, and I decided I have to quit my job and try to save him. I left the career I loved and a full pension. I had been there 17 years, so only 8 years from full retirement, to try to save him. He's now thriving. He's back in school, got his learner's permit, and got his first job. The smile on his face and his big hugs, I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. Not one possession or any money would have been worth his life. Story 14. I left my husband, spent 15 wires with a man who is so traumatized that he doesn't even realize it, and we joked that he was an emotional flatliner because he has no emotions except for anger. But he made me feel like I was psycho for having a normal range of emotions. I considered a scalpel as a way out more times than I like to admit to. I only stuck around for my kids. 7 wires later, I still struggle with expressing my real emotions for fear that I'll be mocked and derided. My life isn't always easy, but it's mine and I love it, and now I get to help others. Story 15. I was doing searches on America Online for profiles of people that like Thoreau and the poem Invictus. Only like 20 profiles came up, and after that I noticed some seemed fake, or the people were too old for my 19-year-old self to contact. I sent like 5 messages out to people I had never met. One of which was a girl that was 17 and lived across the country from me, and she was an avid reader. and liked a lot of the same stuff I like. I finished my message to her by stating, maybe we could be friends. We were online friends who supported each other through schooling, romantic relationships, and just life in general. Eventually, we met in person. 28 years after that first message, we have been married over 17 years and have 2 amazing kids together. I can't describe how important she is to me, and how I am not even sure where I end and she begins. I feel so connected to her. This question is timely because April 24th, 28 years ago, is the day I sent this message. It feels good to appreciate and bathe in my good fortune. Happy Redditing. Who knows who you might meet on here? Story 16, failing college. I went to a pretty good university, but was extremely depressed. Grew up with some emotional abuse, and it caused major problems when I was out on my own. And my living situation then wasn't much better. It led to me making the choice to skip class and eventually flunk out of college. But I also, in that time, realized that I chose a major out of obligation, not what I wanted. I went to a technical college in a degree that I wanted to actually study and was highly motivated. And on the first day of class, I met a girl. We'll be celebrating our 3rd wedding anniversary and welcoming our 2nd child into the world this year. I don't believe in fate or anything, but if I stuck with my original school or went for the major I wanted first, I never would have crossed paths with her. The decision was dumb, but it resulted in the life I have now. Story 17. I took my co-worker up on her invitation to meet a dog her friend was looking to rehome, as she knew I was looking for a dog to adopt. Met the dog. She bonded with me so quickly and so hard that I couldn't leave that day as she pinned me with all her weight, and this was after she lunged at my coworker for getting too close to me, she thought, to pet her. Days later, she was mine. That was almost 7 years ago. That bond is as tight as ever, and I have always ended the day happy with my life ever since. Story 18. Started therapy. I always assumed it was a bunch of bullcrap and waste of time. Why would I need some stranger tell me what I already know? Or better yet, try to help when I can do it all on my own. I finally gave in when the grief of losing my parents started affecting my daily life. Best decision ever. I have learned so much about myself, and we ended up covering all sorts of topics, not just grief. I have learned how to set boundaries, how to stop being a people pleaser, and how to conserve my energy when my mind is burned out from the daily grind. Story 19. Getting my previous job. I grew to really hate the company and the job, but there are 3 major things I got out of it. First off, and this is not that important, but worth mentioning, I lost my virginity to a coworker. I was really socially awkward as a teen and young adult, so I would have never lost it on my own. Luckily, my coworker was really forward about these things, and she basically came to me and asked me if I wanted to have sex. I found my best friends through that job. Before that job, I was on my way to being completely secluded and depressed. Actually, I was clinically depressed, but my now best friend, from there, is pretty much the reason I got out of it. All my closest friends are from that job. I also met my girlfriend there. We have dated over 2 years now, and I don't believe I would have met her without that job. I love her so much that I can't describe it, and she was the one that helped me quit the job. I was really struggling there, but I also struggled leaving because I really like to stay at something familiar. She told me that I need to quit that job to keep my sanity. Thank God for her. Story 20. I went with my 5th choice university, purely because I started during COVID times, and this advertised having the biggest campus in the UK. Thus lots of space and less room for infection. My course was 4 years long, and in my 2nd year I happened to meet an international exchange student from Germany. We ended up keeping in touch, and have now been in a really happy relationship for a while. I have made so many visits to his home country that, for now, after learning the language and making a lot of friends there, my future prospects plan on moving over there permanently. Best butterfly effect ever. Story 21. Go 70K in debt for film school in NYC. No, seriously. I had to choose between a full ride to a public in-state university with a slightly above average film program, or going tens of thousands in debt for one of the top film schools in the world, even after I received a scholarship covering half my tuition. My dad and I rationalized that I would be paying for the networking and connections, and we were 100% right. I made a ton of friends, fell in love with NYC, and worked my ass off in school. Graduated a year early, landed an internship that turned into a full-time job at a company I greatly admired, climbed the ladder while hopping to different companies, and now have my dream job. I've paid off about half the debt, and while it definitely hangs over my head, it was worth every penny. It was the decision that changed the trajectory of my entire life. Story 22. To change the path that I was on, I was not a good person, I was not a nice person, I was a pretty shitty person. I was a raging alcoholic and drug user with an untreated personality disorder, severe depression, and severe anxiety. Something happened to open my eyes to what I had become. I made a conscious choice to get sober, get into therapy, and change myself and my life. Took a lot of hard work, and there are still a lot of ups and downs, but I've been sober for 20 years and I'm working on myself every day. Story 23. Deciding to quit my job was the best decision of my life. It took me a year of being very selective about where I wanted to apply, but I made it my life's mission to leave my old job. I would spend every day working on skills while on the clock, while taking on more and more projects, although I hated my manager so much and dreaded going to work every day. That hatred fueled my desire to leave that dump behind forever. I was running the department single-handedly and getting my manager to give me more work, which made look great in interviews. I quit that job in January, and now I make double my annual salary, have an amazing benefits package, will be able to get all of my masters for free, and have a much better quality of life. I used to always sell myself short and believe that I could never reach any goal, but now I can see that I am capable of changing my life for the better. Story 24. After years of frustration, my wife and I went through IVF to have our baby, which was long, tedious, stressful, and expensive, but a great decision due to the resulting baby. But the best decision we made was to have genetic testing performed on our embryos. Of the 7 embryos we had, only 1 was genetically healthy and problem-free. Without testing, we had an 86% chance of having a baby with trisomy, Downs, or other significant life issues. Story 25. I started prioritizing my happiness. I was a people pleaser for a very long time, and I spent a big part of my life not voicing my needs in order to make sure everyone else's were met. I ended a relationship where I did not feel like a priority and realized that it was a recurring theme in my life. At that point, I decided to end the cycle and start making my happiness a priority. It has been liberating. While I still struggle with it sometimes, I am much better about speaking up when I feel unhappy or unfulfilled. Story 26. Adopting a why not try mindset. If the worst case scenario is, I look stupid or my life stays the same, why not try? As someone who's struggled with mental health lifelong, I'm confident it changed the trajectory for my life. Why not meditate? Why not try new foods? Why not give my time for free to help them move house? Why not send an embarrassing thank you for being in my life since I think it? Why not try physical therapy? Why not live another day in case someone needs me? Why not go to therapy? It completely changed everything. Story 27. Moving across the country. Now, I must say, life here has been a struggle. A lot of bad things have happened, but the majority are of my own wrongdoing / self-destruction. For the first time in my life, I recognize that I am not a victim or an enemy. I'm just me, and I have to work on the unhealed parts of myself. The dark truth, that I am my own worst critic. Nobody in this world, no matter where I live, will help me. I have to help myself. I moved across the country alone, and I have to continue the journey of self-growth alone. If I can pack up all of my belongings and leave the life I thought I was doomed for behind, then I can do anything. Some people do not believe in me, but some people do. And you know what? Who cares? I got this. I believe in myself. Story 28. Took my therapist's advice and started treating my mind like I treat my garden. Bad thoughts are weeds that need to be purged. Good thoughts are like plants that you want to grow and dominate your garden. Paying more mind to positive and constructive thoughts as opposed to doom and gloom thoughts that bring about no growth. It's a simple concept, but I couldn't do it until I was told this metaphor. Story 29. Finally separate from and eventually divorce my mentally and emotionally abusive and cheating ex. Also, changing my mind and agreeing to take the dog. She was a lifesaver. Honestly, I can't believe when she said, "You take her," and my first response was, "I'm not going to take your responsibilities with me." The next day, I told her I would take the dog. We had 3 dogs at the time. In the end, me, the dog, her breeder, and the breed club were all extremely happy that she stayed with me and had such a great life with me. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. Be sure to write comments and share your stories.